let's talk about what is going on with the Tory party. Rishi Sunak has been urged by some Tory MPs to urgently change course. This after Lee Anderson defected to Reform UK yesterday, about this time indeed, becoming their first MP. It's reported, as I say, that 10 other MPs are also considering defecting. Well, joining me now to discuss this is former Number 10 advisor and the founder of Conservative Home website, Tim Montgomerie. Good morning to you, Tim.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, how significant is the decision by Lee Anderson to defect to Reform UK?
Well, I think if it sort of started immediately from the beginning of the year, it would have been a shock and it would have hurt the Tories. But it's been a sort of slow boil story, if you like. First of all, he lost the deputy chairmanship when he rebelled over the immigration bill. Then he lost the whip, and now he's defected. So when the news broke, as you say, about this time yesterday, I wasn't surprised at all. Doesn't help the Conservatives, but it's not the kind of shock that it once might have been.
No, indeed. But after a load of by-election losses and being way, way down in the polls, I mean, some of them have said as behind us 27 percentage points. I don't think that's what it would be like on election day. Things have a habit of changing, but things are not looking good for the Prime Minister. Now, I've got a load of other MPs who are apparently also in talks with Reform UK. I don't think anyone doubts that. How many would he have to lose before people would start going, hold on a minute, this is a sinking ship, what are we going to do?
I'm not so sure how many are actually in dialogue with him, Julia. I've spoken to quite a lot of Conservative MPs, people I respect in the party, people outside, and they struggle to name many individuals who they think are in these talks. And I'm long enough in the tooth now to have heard these things from, first of all, UKIP, then the Brexit Party, and now Reform. And they always say that Tory MPs are in talks with them. And why wouldn't they? They want to, get that sense of growth and danger for their own cause. But I would be surprised. You could bring me back on this programme and remind me of these words. But I'd be surprised if more than a handful ever defect to Reform.
People tend not to do that. They also know that actually there's, when you look at people who have changed parties across the floor, it often doesn't bode well for them. Do you think that Lee Anderson should resign and call for a by-election? Because he did actually, a few little years ago, as a private member's bill, to basically require, allow a recall to Parliament from voters if they've elected an MP of whatever party that MP changes party, they've basically, not, voters have elected someone on false pretense. They should be basically forced to resign and a by-election be held so that voters can decide whether they want to keep that MP or not. Do you think that he should stand by that and that he should resign and call a by-election?
Yeah, I think there was some vox pops on TalkTV yesterday afternoon where voters in his constituency saying, well, we voted Conservative. We didn't vote for Lee Anderson. That's true in most constituencies. An individual will have a personal vote, but it's normally not more than 2,000 or 3,000. Most people vote for the party label. And as you say, Lee Anderson, not so long ago, said that if any MP resigned from one party, crossed the floor to join another, they should hold a by-election. And ho, 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 it comes to be the fact that he is in that position and suddenly he doesn't want to hold a by-election. And I'm not exactly surprised. Perhaps he's saying now he's hiding behind the idea that a by-election would cost a lot of money and it's an election year and therefore it would be a waste of time. I'd love someone with deep pockets to call his bluff because I think he'd lose any by-election. And I think that's ultimately, Julia, why Tory MPs won't join him in crossing the floor, because although the Tory party is certainly unpopular at the moment, even Reform, in the best opinion polls it enjoys at the moment, is behind the Conservatives. So joining Reform isn't really the answer to an MP's unpopularity problem.
We know on election day that actually having that army of people who can campaign and having the funding does make a very big difference. There's a lot of talk, though, and criticism from groups within the party, like the New Conservatives and others, and we've had from the Popcorn, the Liz Truss side as well. People saying they want the government to change course. They want Rishi Sunak to go back to more, they believe, sort of traditional Conservative views. Lee Anderson's argument is like, I want my country back. He's saying that the stuff that he's called controversial for, that he says, isn't, and he's quite right, actually, isn't controversial at all. People want to have, criminals go to prison. They want to have lower legal immigration. They want to deport illegal migrants. This stuff isn't controversial on any doorstep, I would say, in any constituency, apart from, I don't know, maybe Islington.
No, well, I completely agree with you on that. And the trouble with the argument about sort of Rishi Sunak changing course is, Julia, he changes course every week. He takes a different position on almost anything every week. There's a different initiative to try and get back popularity for the Conservative Party. There isn't an immediate impact on the opinion polls. And so he does something else the following week. And voters smell that. They don't see consistency. And I'm afraid it's probably too late for Rishi Sunak to display any of that consistency
But, okay,
now.
so is that an argument for another ousting of yet another Tory Prime Minister? I've lost track of how many there have been, to be honest with you. Wouldn't it, when we have 5 since 2010, would actually that be something that MPs would seriously consider? Because, in normal times, it would be crazy in an election year to oust your Prime Minister. Yeah. But, 2019, we saw Theresa May ousted at a time when the party was down in the polls. Boris Johnson took over, a majority of 80 a few months later.
I think the balance of opinion in the parliamentary party is still very much against changing the leader once more. But I think there was an opinion poll last week, you will have seen it, where the Tories were down to 18%, 18%. That's, way lower they were even than during the catastrophic leadership of Liz Truss. And so I wouldn't rule out a change of leader this year. I think the key moment will be the local council elections in May. If they're as disastrous as the current opinion polls suggest they might be, that would be the moment that I think Tory MPs might move against Rishi Sunak. And kind of, if you've got rid of 4 prime ministers in one term, why don't you get rid of 5? In a sense, one extra, does it make any difference?
That's the attitude. And we know, the campaigning is going to be, it's going to be very long, it's going to be very expensive, and parties need donors. Something I disapprove of. I'm of the view that no party should receive any money from any organisation or individual over £5,000, maybe £10,000 with inflation now, I don't know. But so they don't have influence. Yeah. However, Tories, like every other party, has big money donors. And one of the Tories is Frank Hester. 10 million quid he gave the party last year. I always wonder why people give money to political parties. What do they want? What policies do they want in return? Big question now whether the Tories should be required to return that 10 million quid after The Guardian reported some extraordinary remarks made by this man at a meeting in his own company. He's the founder and chief executive of TPP, a company that specialises in healthcare technology. Extraordinarily, he made remarks a few years ago about Diane Abbott. He was criticising a female executive at another organisation. This was during a meeting, and he said of this executive he didn't like, it's like trying not to be racist, but you see Diane Abbott on the TV and you're just like, you just want to hate all black women because she's there. And I don't hate all black women at all, but I think she should be shot. And he referred to this woman executive and Diane Abbott need to be shot. Do you ever have to try not to be racist when you see Diane Abbott on the TV?
Well, I think the remarks were really very... well, they were crass, weren't they? They were ugly, and I'm sure racist. He regrets those remarks now.
No, they're racist.
I think they are racist, yes. And it's very unfortunate that he is in any way connected with the Conservative Party. I think it's hard for a party to, unless the money is stolen or something, the money was taken in good faith, it's a lot of money. I suspect the party have largely spent it. And to give it back now would be very difficult for them. But yes, okay. The remarks were racist, and very unfortunate that they were ever made.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your time. That's Tim Montgomerie.